the solar eclipse, festivals, and tourism in Johnson County, Indiana, with the director of FestivalCountryIndiana.com, Ken Kosky, on episode number 4 of the All In Johnson County podcast with Dr. Brad Miller.
It's the first podcast just south of Indy, the All In Johnson County podcast, where we are all in for everything awesome about living, working, playing, and visiting Johnson County, Indiana. This is the place for all things Greenwood, Bargersville, Franklin, Whiteland, and all points in between. A proud member of the All Indiana Podcast Network. Way to go! You found the All In Johnson County podcast. Now, here's your guide, Dr. Brad Miller.
Hello, good people, and welcome to All In Johnson County, the podcast which celebrates everything good about the people, places, events, and festivals, all in Johnson County, Indiana. I'm Dr. Brad Miller. An event that is happening very soon here in Johnson County is the solar eclipse. It is a big deal. There's expected to be many thousands of people to descend upon Johnson County on April 8th, 2024 to experience this literally a once-in-a-lifetime event. That means it has to do with things like tourism and festivals. So who should we call upon? But the person in charge of FestivalCountryIndiana.com. His name is Ken Kosky, and he's going to celebrate and he's going to tell us about many events that are happening in and around Johnson County surrounding the solar eclipse and everything else good about festivals and tourism and the quality of life in Johnson County. You're going to love this episode. You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to be aware about many things happening in Johnson County that you're going to want to take advantage of and invite people in your life to come and visit Johnson County. We're going to get our conversation with Ken Kosky from FestivalCountryIndiana.com right after this. Here's a question for you. How much time do you spend listening to or watching podcasts? Probably more than you want to admit, so you know the influence of podcasting. What if you could be the one behind the mic or in front of the camera to bring your unique message to the world? I know you've thought about it, but the thought of where to begin is overwhelming. I'm Dr. Brad Miller for 40-Day Way Podcasting Services. I've published over 1,000 episodes for over a decade and won awards for podcasting. I know podcasting, and I know I can get your voice and video recorded in a few hours and your new podcast published to the world in 40 days. If you're in business or an event planner, you know podcasting is powerful and getting stronger. How cool would it be to share your message right here in this very spot, targeted, and this is important, to the people who live, work, and play in and around Johnson County, Indiana? You're at least intrigued about the whole idea, aren't you? The good news is this. 40-Day Way Podcasting Services is here to get you started on creating your own podcast or leveraging the power of podcasting for your business or event. Right now, I'm offering a free 30-minute podcasting consult to the first 10 people who reach out to me, Dr. Brad Miller. Just email me at brad@drbradmiller.com. Call me at 317-300-4615 or leave a message on the allinjohnsoncounty.com website. That email again is brad@drbradmiller.com. Let's talk about getting your message heard. And among the things happening that are good in our county is everything having to do with tourism and events and festivals. And the person in charge of this is what we call Festival Country Indiana is Ken Kosky, who's the executive director of FestivalCountryIndiana.com, which is the tourism arm of Johnson County. So we welcome him to our podcast today. Ken, welcome.
Thank you, Brad. Glad to be talking with you.
It's awesome for you to join us here on All in Johnson County, where we just try to lift up good things happening in our county. And one of the things I like to do is just kind of before we kind of jump in the meat of what you do, what's one thing that you just really enjoy personally about living or working in Johnson County, Indiana?
Well, I couldn't narrow it down just to one thing. The great thing about my job is I get to be a tourist in my own community. I get to try all the great restaurants, enjoy the parks, go to attractions, and then tell that story to people that may be wanting to visit.
That's awesome. That's part of your job, your opportunity, your reason to be here on the podcast today in many ways is to just lift up everything about Johnson County, Indiana in terms of tourism and visitors and things of that nature. And the name of your website, the name of the visitor center is festivalcountryindiana.com. Where does that name come from initially? Let's start there.
Well, we brought an expert in and he said, you have to decide what your strongest thing is. So there's destinations that can be wine country or Niagara Falls. We don't have that. So we went around and figured out what does every community contribute to the overall experience. And it was a great lineup of festivals and concert series. And so that's where the Festival Country Indiana brand was born. And we not only took what was existing, but we also offer grants to build new festivals and events, improve existing festivals, and we sponsor all the concert series in this community.
And it seemed like that might give you just a little bit of positioning here in the Indianapolis metropolitan area. You know, you got the Indy 500 track and you got the big venues up in Hamilton County. Do you think it gives you a little distinction from some of the other areas around the general metropolitan area?
Absolutely. People tend to come here they know that any weekend there'll be great outdoor concerts and festivals. So they come for that, but then they stay for the restaurants, for some axe throwing and all the other great things that there are to do. Go-karts, apple orchards, things like that.
Awesome. Well, that's good. And then you also like to say, kind of a tagline you have is just south of Indy. So tell us where that comes from.
Well, when we were sitting around the room talking and we say, how would we describe our area? And people wanted to say like Johnson County or whatever. And I said, well, when you go off to a conference, where do you tell people you're from? And the lady said, I just got back from a conference. I said, I'm just south of Indy. And I said, that's our answer.
There we go. And again, it kind of positions you in relationship to the rest of the metropolitan Indianapolis area and so on and so forth. What have you found? You've lived here for a few years now, and I've been around here 16, 17 years. What have you found that is kind of the growing edge or kind of the places where Johnson County seems to be taking the lead in some areas?
Yeah, well, the great thing about our tourism agency is we not only market all the cool things that there are to do, but if we identify something that we're lacking or that would make our community better, we partner with folks to make it happen. We brought ice skating to the Franklin Amphitheater for the first time this past winter, and we're doing another test run of that in Edinburgh this winter. So that's just one example. Also here in Franklin, we've upgraded some of our alleys to be Instagram worthy. So we get people to come here and get their picture taken in those alleys and spread it to their 500 friends, some of whom return and take their own pictures and spread it to their 500 friends and so on and so on. So it's all about building a better community.
Yeah. How have you seen that working out so far? Have you seen any results of that? Have people responded to these things you're mentioning here?
Yeah, every metric that we have is up. Our economic impact study showed that tourism was up 8.4% a year. Our hotel revenue is up, Facebook engagement, website hits. So it's definitely resonating and people are coming to us as a source of information and then coming to visit and enjoy our communities.
And when they come to our community, what is leading them to want to say, okay, there's more here than just a visit. This is maybe, what are some people saying when they say, if they make a connection either to the business community or to the park system or to some of the festivals? What are some of the reasons that people might be saying they might want to maybe invest here or stay or a little bit more than just passing through?
Well, the experts say that tourism is actually the front door to economic development. If you come and visit a place and you fall in love with the downtown or you love the country feel and you're a business person, you think, well, maybe I'll move my business here. I would enjoy living here. Or you just, wow, enjoyed my time here very much. I'm going to move my family here and keep looking for jobs in this area. So really, if you can provide the visitor with a good experience, they may stay as a resident or as a business person.
That kind of leads us to the question is, with the tourism as the front door and they get attracted to something here, what do you think keeps people here? What is it about either the business environment or the schools, whatever it would be, that would be attractive for people not only come, but to stay?
Yeah, so obviously people want communities that are safe, that have good schools, but increasingly we're finding quality of life.
Mhm.
That's the thing that will really attract people, especially the younger generations. So you need good trail systems, a lively dining and drink scene, craft brew, things like that. A lot of festivals and events like we talked about. So it all works together to provide somewhere that you want to live, that I want to live, and that people who experience it for the first time want to live.
Quality of life is so key for so many people, and you mentioned some of those things that just enhance that so much. Tell me about one. You've mentioned here some of the things here happening in Franklin, but how has the business community or other entities, education, healthcare, anything along that line, partnered with, say, the tourism community in order to help all this happen as you're talking about?
Yeah, we can't be successful unless, like you said, you have quality education, quality law enforcement, great hospitals. So a lot of times there's partnerships that we don't even think of or see. But as an example, the Franklin Chamber worked with Johnson Memorial Health on some joint billboards. So just any way that any entity can partner together is something that is done quite frequently, but it doesn't get a lot of attention. And that's one of when you ask what the secret sauce is of the success of this county, I think it's that people aren't territorial. They just really want to work together for the good of the entire community.
So I think that's an important point that you're making there, Ken, because a lot of situations, be it communities or organizations, there's siloing going on. There are people staking out their territory and things of this nature, because they want their piece of the action, so to speak. Are you telling me that people want to succeed, obviously, but they're more working together here? How's this playing out in your mind?
Yeah. So from our standpoint, we work with every community. So as an example, we worked with the town of Edinburgh to bring enhanced entertainment to their fall festival. So the fall festival hadn't had much new in years, but when we provided them a grant, they could bring in like fire dancers and drummers and all kinds of cool street entertainment. And they said it was the best festival ever. We've provided money to Greenwood to enhance their parks and sponsor some of their activities. Mentioned some of the things here in Franklin. We're sponsoring concert series in Greenwood, Franklin, Bargersville this year. So it's really partnering with folks that are doing great things and providing them the resources to make it happen.
Well, you mentioned some of the specific events there, and, this is Festival Country, Indiana. So what do you think are some of the highlights of some of those festivals? And do we have anything new on the horizon festival-wise coming up?
Well, this year we have something that is new. It hasn't happened in more than 100 years, and it won't happen in another 100 years. It's the Eclipse Festival that's happening countywide. So that's probably our biggest new thing this year. We've got more than 40 sites across the county that are participating in the Eclipse, whether they're offering you camping, a festival, live music. The list goes on, but anywhere from Johnson County Park in the south all the way up to Craig Park in the north, and everywhere in between, there's going to be some just amazing Eclipse celebrations.
Yeah. Well, this is very obviously a unique, literally once a millennium, basically, event. And you're seizing on the opportunity, it sounds like, to enhance quality of life. And tell me, it's my understanding we could see some significant influx of folks coming into our county. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll give you one example. Somebody came in the visitor center who lives here and says, oh yeah, I've got friends coming from San Francisco, Boston, and Hong Kong for this. So if you think that people aren't interested in the Eclipse and won't travel for it, just that one person, kind of disprove that. And we get stories like that all the time. We've, some of the folks that are opening up their property for camping or putting on a party at a restaurant have told me that they're getting a lot of interest. Hey, can I reserve a spot? I'm coming from far away. I want to make sure I have a spot. And so that's been really great to see.
Well, I'll just say, just personally, I've We're talking today in the visitor center, which in and of itself is pretty cool. Lots of neat things here at the visitor center here in downtown Franklin, Indiana. But I've been here for just a little bit, 15 minutes or so, and I've seen several people come in to get information about the Eclipse and the special glasses that you have and that type of thing. And I see the buzz that's happening. You know, I've lived here for some time. I see it in the stores and people are talking about it. The buzz is starting to happen. We're about a month away as we speak here today, 27 days. So how do you think that unique opportunity is going to play out in terms of really putting Johnson County even more on the map, even more in terms of making a splash here? I know there's lots of things happening in this. I forget what they call this, the path of
totality.
Path of totality, yes. And a lot of events around the whole country, really. But how's this going to lift up Johnson County even more?
Well, just in the past week, we've been featured, like Franklin and the surrounding communities are the place to see the eclipse. We've been featured by Indianapolis Television, Southern Living Magazine, Forbes, and dozens of others. So it's really cool from a tourism standpoint. You know, our whole job is to get people to come, love it, and make that part of their tradition. Like, yeah, we're going to come back every year. And to know that we're in the center of the path of totality and people will be coming. And as long as we show them a good time, they'll always remember that and hopefully want to come back and recreate that experience at a time when it's a little less busy.
Yeah. So the hospitality piece is huge, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And in a part of that, are you seeing some of the businesses or some of the other, whatever, social service entities, anything that are just kind of stepping up and doing their own special things for the eclipse?
Yeah. So just some of the more public-facing things, as a couple examples. In Bargersville, Taxman is having a party where they're releasing 2 new Eclipse-themed brews, and they're giving out free Eclipse glasses and they're partnering with NASA for this event. Down the road, Coffee House 5 in Bargersville is having yoga and eclipse viewing. So that's just one example of a town that's getting on board. Here in Franklin, I know that a lot of people are having like a themed menu, like serving moon pies or something instead of their usual dessert, and just really getting in on the theme. And even if you were normally going to be closed on Sunday and Monday, these folks are opening up their businesses to provide that hospitality and give people a good experience.
Yeah. I know there's one of the events I'm looking forward to is the hot air balloons is going to be happening. I forgot what we call that. The glow, something.
Yeah, hot air balloon glow.
Hot air balloon glow. That should just be awesome. I know the community where I grew up near Louisville, Kentucky, that was a big part of the Kentucky Derby Festival, was all the hot air balloons going off, and that's a really cool thing as well. When you think about Johnson County moving forward, what do you think the attitude is of folks, kind of the established folks in our community? And you've got those folks in our whole county, and you've got folks who've come in and kind of been a part of the growth patterns. I'll give a quick example. I have a adult son who lives in Old Town Bargersville, but around Bargersville, there is lots and lots of new houses, new developments. And there's just some, I won't say tension, but there's some, differences of opinion and that kind of thing, how things are going. How do you think people are navigating some of these nuances that are happening as growth happens in our county?
The best communities take that input from the folks that have lived there forever and the new folks and meld it into something where you can grow together in a way that satisfies you both. There's nothing worse than a community that says we're never going to change, because what does that mean? That eventually everyone's going to die off or move out, and because nothing ever changed. We know change is inevitable, but it's on us to guide it in a way that's positive for as many people as possible and creates new opportunities and great new things. So at the end of the day, people go, I liked the town that I grew up in, but I think it's even stronger now. And that should be our only focus.
Well, what you just mentioned there leads me to think about what's next for Johnson County from your perspective. You mentioned opportunities. So what do you think are opportunities for people moving here or businesses or anything else, education? What do you think are the opportunities moving forward for our county?
That's something that we work with our communities every day on. coming up, I'll be sitting on a panel that will be helping to chart Edinburgh's future. I just wrapped up probably a year or so ago doing the same thing for Bargersville and have participated in that in other communities. But ultimately, us as a tourism agency, we don't dictate what you as a community are going to do, but we talk to you. We have those conversations. Is there any amenity that you're missing? Mountain biking, the list goes on and on. Is there something that you want in your community? Permanent ice skating. And if it's something that aligns, that would bring visitors, which is our goal, but also serve the residents, which is primarily their goal, hey, let's partner together. Let's combine some of our resources and go after grants and try to make some of these cool new things happen to move our communities along.
So it sounds like Festival Country Johnson County, festivalcountryindiana.com is a resource then for these communities and for whether it be businesses or other entities that are here to help connect the dots, as it were, help people find the grants, helping people find the resources or the consultants or whatever that they need to happen. Are people doing that? Are they reaching out to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've, I believe, already awarded $100,000 in grants already this year to multiple entities. So it's great. One of the things that was most satisfying to me is, I come into town probably 7 years ago and with all these ideas to build a wonderful visitor center, to bring ice skating. And what I found out was that a lot of those ideas already existed, but nobody had the resources or the ability. They were close, but they just couldn't make it happen. They couldn't bring it to fruition. But when we came on the scene, we were that last step that was able to push some of these across the finish line. And that's very rewarding. So it wasn't just ideas that we had. It was ideas that had been existing for decades in the community, and we were just able to help make it happen.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Who stepped up to help you do that? Because I know people have had to do that. Who among the leaders in local government or local business leaders, or who stepped up and say, okay, I'm with you. I'm all in with you. Who stepped up to be helpful to you?
We couldn't have done this ourselves. Everybody had to be all in. So we've worked with Franklin Parks and Recreation, Greenwood Parks and Recreation, Town of Edinburgh. It's usually partnering with a parks department or a town, but we've also partnered with just other groups like the Art Craft Theater to put on an epic bash to celebrate their anniversary. And it was a 1920s themed event. That just came to my mind because that was just like the party of the century, and we helped them bring it forth. So really anybody that wants to partner with us and has a grand idea, we'll see if we can help make it happen.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, our focus of All in Johnson County is about the good things that are happening in our county. But when you start to do good things, sometimes it uncovers some of the challenges. Some of these are some areas we need to work on here. I know for many years I sat on a board that helped to deal with homelessness in our county, for instance, and which is an issue at times. But what do you see has been uncovered, or what are some of the challenges that you think that we need to face in our county that maybe some of these working together can help to address those?
Yeah, I think when we first came on the scene, there was some reluctance, like, can this organization really, is it just another meeting that's not going to result in anything?
Right.
But I think once we had those early successes and they saw, they walk in the visitor center doors and see this beautiful place that has 3D hands-on exhibits, we complete the first alley that has 200 overhead stars and it's beautiful and people are getting selfies in it and spreading it across the Midwest. I think when you have those early wins, people say like, oh, let's roll with them. They can help make it happen. And then the successes start happening faster after that.
And those successes then can start to address some of those challenges.
Right.
And that's a good thing.
And I admire, I always say like tourism is we handle the fun, but I also admire like the folks that are tackling those serious issues like mental health, homelessness. As a community, we have a certain lane that we can try to bring improvement to, but the community itself won't be great unless everybody is doing their part in some of those other realms that, don't involve tourism.
Well, I think greatness comes not only when those who have success can succeed, but they can help others to be raised as well and along the process. And that's a good thing. So let's kind of bring it around background to this. We talked a little bit about the quality of life here. If I'm going to be talking to an out-of-state person or person who I know may be looking to have a transition in life, maybe they retired or maybe they look for new job opportunities. And you mentioned several things that you enjoy, but what do you think is going to be, something that's going to say, okay, that is the thing that might be it for you, for Johnson County? As opposed, they get lots of choices. If somebody gets a job at Lily's in downtown Indy, they can, lots of choices. What do you just think, what would you say to that person who has those opportunities?
I don't think it's any one thing. I guess it's what each individual person values, but overall as a community, I think you need unique shopping. You need downtowns are the heartbeat of a community. You need a unique downtown or unique businesses and boutiques. You need dining. You need outdoor recreation opportunities. You need friendly people. It's one of those things that you know it when you see it. You know it when you feel it. If you've ever been on vacation, and some vacations were just okay, but some like, oh, I love that town. I would go back there next year, or maybe when we retire, that'd be a great place to retire too. And that's the kind of feeling that I hope to create here.
Heard that sometimes that type of feeling called the it factor. It when it happens, and I hope that a part of what we all do. You mentioned the people. I think that's a key part of the resources here, because as you mentioned, here in Johnson County, we've got lots of the festivals and lots of cool stuff, but we don't have the big dramatic thing, there's no Disney World in the middle of our county or anything like that, if I'm trying to say, but the entities that come together, that hometown feel and that vibe, it's an overall it factor. And that's one of the reasons my wife and I we retired 3 years ago and chose to stay here. We lived here for 15 years. We chose to stay in Johnson County in our retirement because of that it factor, as it were, and to invest some more of our life here. And that's what we did. Well, anything else that you want to share, Ken, just that's on your heart about Johnson County before we kind of wrap this conversation?
Well, I just wanted to let people know for the Eclipse, visit eclipsefestival2024.com. That's where you'll find the information about the 40 different events that are happening. And just for all the fun things to do, visit festivalcountryindiana.com. We're here as a resource. Oh, and I would like to also add, if you'd like free Eclipse glasses, stop in our visitor center and we'll hand those out to you so that you can enjoy the Eclipse safely. We're here to answer any questions and just be a resource and a benefit to our community.
Being a resource. And by the way, the visitor center in and of itself is a place to see with lots of cool stuff here. There's a photo booth and displays and all kinds of things that are going on right here in the visitor center. It's not just a place to pick up brochures, is it?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can get a free photo in the photo booth to remember your time here. And our goal is really to tell the story of what makes Johnson County special and get people out into the communities enjoying all the things. So if we can share some of that knowledge with people and then they come back in a couple of weeks and go, yeah, you were right. That restaurant was great. That I enjoyed going to that attraction. It really, it kind of fulfills our mission.
Yeah. Has anybody come in to tell you those stories to say, kind of a personal story that, okay, we really enjoyed this about your town?
Oh, yeah. So Cynthia, who's working the front desk at our visitor center today, has people that come back and know her by name and just say that they enjoyed what she recommended and they've told their friends. And then sometimes weeks later, they and the friends all come back in together. So that's just the name of the game. That's why we do what we do.
Awesome. Well, and then just to mention that the visitor center is located on Water Street in downtown Franklin, Indiana, just right near the town square, or just off the town square. So we'll put links to everything that we've been talking about here today at our website, allinjohnsoncounty.com. And it's a pleasure to have with us today Ken Kosky, Tourism Bureau of Johnson County, which is called festivalcountryindiana.com. And I'll be back with some closing comments and a preview of our next episode right after this message. Here's a question for you. How much time do you spend listening to or watching podcasts? Probably more than you want to admit, so you know the influence of podcasting. What if you could be the one behind the mic or in front of the camera to bring your unique message to the world? I know you've thought about it, but the thought of where to begin is overwhelming. I'm Dr. Brad Miller for 40-Day Way Podcasting Services. I've published over 1,000 episodes for over a decade and won awards for podcasting. I know podcasting, and I know I can get your voice and video recorded in a few hours and your new podcast published to the world in 40 days. If you're in business or an event planner, you know podcasting is powerful and getting stronger. How cool would it be to share your message right here in this very spot, targeted, and this is important, to the people who live, work, and play in and around Johnson County, Indiana? You're at least intrigued about the whole idea, aren't you? The good news is this. 40-Day Way Podcasting Services is here to get you started on creating your own podcast or leveraging the power of podcasting for your business or event. Right now, I'm offering a free 30-minute podcasting consult to the first 10 people who reach out to me, Dr. Brad Miller. Just email me at brad@drbradmiller.com. Call me at 317-300-4615 or leave a message on the allinjohnsoncounty.com website. That email again is brad@drbradmiller.com. Let's talk about getting your message heard. I do want to say a big hearty thank you once again to Ken Kosky from FestivalCountryIndiana.com. That is the tourism bureau of Johnson County. And I do want to say that you can find some really cool stuff at their website, all about the events and the places, the things to do here in Johnson County. A great place to point people to, especially if you have people in your life from out of town who may want to check out Johnson County. Some great resources there and some things you might discover that'll be helpful to you. And if you stop by their offices in downtown Franklin on Water Street, that's a really cool place as well, regarding flyers and whatnot about and brochures regarding all the events and the walking tours of Johnson County, as well as you can get your solar eclipse glasses there and get ready for that, and a schedule or a listing of all the various events that are happening related to the solar eclipse. You want to check that out. It's at FestivalCountryIndiana.com. We'll put all the links to everything we're about at our website, allinjohnsoncounty.com. In fact, that's the place to go to find out everything about All in Johnson County. Just go to allinjohnsoncounty.com/follow, and that's where you can follow this podcast on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, and on YouTube, and certainly on the website. And there you can find lots of great stuff there. This is the podcast which is all about lifting up everything good and the quality of life in Johnson County, Indiana. All the people and the places and the events all around Johnson County. So we hope that you'll reach out to us and make a connection. And particularly if you're interested in finding out more what I'm about, you can reach out to me personally. Just email me at brad@drbradmiller.com. We look forward to being with you next time here on allinjohnsoncounty.com podcast, where our guest will be the president and CEO of Aspire Johnson County, Christian Maslowski. We look forward to serving you here at All in Johnson County. Until next time, good people, I am Dr. Brad Miller. We'll see you down the road, all in Johnson County.
Now that you've been all in Johnson County, of course you want to share this goodness with others. So be a good neighbor and ask them to join you on the next episode of the All in Johnson County podcast over at allinjohnsoncounty.com/follow. This is your announcer, Alan Haw, Wish TV's events manager and a resident of Franklin, Indiana. All in Johnson County is a proud member of Wish TV's All Indiana podcast network. We'll see you next time, All in Johnson County.